Hello and welcome. With the Israeli-Palestinian peace process stalled ever since US President Obama came into office, is there any real plan to move things forward? The need for a clear strategy from the new administration is growing rapidly as tensions flare up over one of the key obstacles, settlements in the West Bank. In the latest incident, hardline Israeli settlers are being blamed for the burning of a mosque near Nablus last week. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered a partial freeze to settlements, but critics say it's just a one-off temporary gesture to appease the United States. Another rising flashpoint for negotiations is the status of Jerusalem after the European Union recently reaffirmed its position that the ancient city must become a shared capital in any two-state solution to create a Palestinian state. And that's a prospect the current Israeli administration completely rejects. Meanwhile, Israel remains worried about Iran's nuclear capability as international diplomatic efforts with Tehran continue to bear no fruit. So today we ask, what strategy can the US offer to kickstart a severely stalled Middle East peace process? I put this question and others to US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton recently, and we'll hear her response in just a moment. But remember, you can join in with your questions and comments in a little bit later in the show. You can send an SMS or email, and we'll welcome your phone calls, as I say, in just a few minutes. Madam Secretary, the issue of the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, everything seems to have stalled since January, just before President Obama came into office. And now there's the added complication of the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, providing benefits for settlers, and the issue of complication, there doesn't seem to be any movement forward. What would you propose in terms of kick-starting the process there?
Well, we are consulting with a lot of our friends in the region to solicit ideas about the best way to try to create conditions for a relaunch of the negotiations. Ultimately, it is between the Israelis and the Palestinians. I have been committed to a two-state solution, a Palestinian state, for more than 10 years. I was the first person associated with any American administration who said that the Palestinians deserved and should be given their own state. So I am very committed to both the Palestinian state to fulfill the aspirations of the Palestinian people and security for the Israelis so that they would be given the guarantee of their own future. I still believe that this is in the best interests of both people, and Senator Mitchell is working very hard. There's not a day that goes by which he is not. We continue to make progress on the economy and security in the West Bank, but we know we have a lot of work to do, and I think this is the kind of work that you cannot be deterred from. I regretted that there was a lull in it after my husband left office, because we were poised to make such progress, and if we'd been able to get it over the goal line, there would have been a Palestinian state for nearly a decade now. But you can't look backwards, you have to look forwards, and we're going to work as hard as we can.
The European Union, with the prompt from Sweden, has put forward a plan for East Jerusalem to be a capital for a Palestinian state. Obviously, it's met resistance from Israel. Will you back the European initiative, or do you have to back Israel?
Well, no, what I do is back the parties, that all of the final status issues have to be decided by the parties. I mean, any of us on the outside can have our opinions. It can look like we're agreeing with one or the other, but at the end of the day, representatives of these two people must sit at the same table and make the agreement. Certainly Jerusalem is on the table. It needs to be on the table. Back when my husband was negotiating, it was front and center. And I think that all these final status issues have to be once and for all decided by the parties, with the rest of us around the edge saying, okay, if you take that risk for peace, we're going to help you. And if you take that risk for peace, we're going to help you. But if they don't reach an agreement, it doesn't matter what anybody else says.
It's also fairly complicated that Israel has not refused to rule out the idea of striking Iran's nuclear facilities if provoked in any way. Now, where would the US stand if Israel does decide to go after Iran?
Well, what we have tried to do is engage in diplomacy in a very vigorous way in order to reassure the international community, including all states, that Iran's nuclear program was for peaceful purposes. Unfortunately, we haven't had the kind of response we were hoping for from the Iranians. As you know well, President Obama made it absolutely clear, with lots of political opposition, that if he reached out his hand and if Iran reciprocated, we could talk about anything and everything. Then came the election. Then came the crackdown on peaceful dissent. Then came demonstrations, and the turmoil inside Iran is continuing until today. We very much supported the return to the P5+1. The United States had not been a full participant, but we are now. And we supported the International Atomic Energy Agency's proposal to Iran that their highly enriched uranium be shipped out and then returned to refuel the Tehran research reactor. They had first agreed in principle. And then I think because of internal disputes, they backed off from that, raising a lot of questions about what their true intentions are. Obviously, the secret facility at Qom was revealed. They now say they want 10 or 20 new nuclear power plants. It's not confidence building, let us say, and I think the international community really still wants to engage with Iran, but people are going to now turn to other routes, like more pressure, like sanctions, to try to change their mind and their behavior.
Is the US being forced to act less unilaterally, having to turn to its NATO partners because, for example, of the shortfall in troops in Afghanistan, because of the need to act together on more of these issues you've discussed?
Well, but that's part of our diplomatic philosophy. We want to work with others. You know, there is not a problem in the world that the United States can solve alone. But I would quickly add, there's not a problem in the world that can be solved without the United States. So we want to create coalitions. We want to find common ground with people. There are many things we could go off and do unilaterally, as the prior administration certainly demonstrated. That's not our chosen path. We would prefer to take some more time, to be more patient, to bring people together, to make the case. For example, at the Board of Governors at the IAEA, the vote that was accumulated condemning Iran, calling for Iran to act, was shocking to some people because it was so unified. You know, it wasn't just the United States, it was Russia, it was China, and many other countries. That's because we've spent time listening and working hard to create this common ground and these common interests. And we've done it out of a sense of mutual respect. We respect and admire so many other cultures and societies. I think the president's made that clear time and time again. But we do feel like at a certain point, the international community must speak with one voice, and we think that time has come with respect to Iran's nuclear program.
Madam Secretary, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Riz. Good to talk to you.
We have to take a short break now. We'll be discussing Secretary Clinton's remarks with two seasoned participants of the peace process. Is the US offering anything new? Let us know what you think. We'll be back in just a moment.